Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing outstanding out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your Good Friday. And I hope everyone's had a great week out there as we're heading off into our weekend. It is Good Friday. Of course, today is the day where Jesus Christ paid the ultimate sacrifice to save us from our sins, physically and mental torture that he went through to do that. But we know that Friday is good because Sunday is coming. So certainly a weekend. We always remember that, not just this weekend, but always remember what he went through for us. But unfortunately, we do have strong to severe thunderstorms that will be on the table for our Good Friday across a pretty large section of the country, at least a risk of them. So we'll discuss this right off the dot. We'll break it down state by state. We'll speak on the latest from the Storm Prediction Center, and just note that this could change. We could go up another category like we did yesterday for Iowa. And speaking of Iowa and areas of really it was southwest Iowa, it was also Nebraska too. But we had a couple, really just 2-3 nasty supercells that produced very large hail. They produced tornadoes. A lot of storm chasers out there got it on film, whether it was on their feed on YouTube, whatever it was. But it was definitely those one or two cells that we spoke on yesterday morning certainly produced. So hopefully we don't get any crazy tornado action today, but there is a pretty large area of the country that runs that risk of severe weather. So we'll speak on it, break it down state by state, speak on parameters. We'll talk about the flooding risk, and then we'll talk about today's weather as far as the rest of the country. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. If you hear any yelling in the background, any dogs barking, Saturday mornings are wild in the West household. And we're actually going to the beach for today, so the kids are very excited. I live close enough. I live here in central South Carolina where we can actually take day beach trips. So I'm certainly asking for prayers for a safe trip there and a safe trip back later this evening. So we're looking forward to that for our day. But let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. We have a slight risk that goes all the way down into like west central Texas, goes through Wichita Falls, goes through Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Fayetteville, Fort Smith, through Springfield, St. Louis, all the way up to Quincy, all the way through Chicago, Peoria, Bloomington, Rockford, all the way up into like Janesville, Wisconsin. We got the marginal risk that does extend all the way through pretty much all of lower Michigan, all the way up to Green Bay now. Areas of northwest Ohio has that marginal, that dark green level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather, and it just surrounds this entire slight risk area. Now, what's driving this? The tornado threat. Let's zoom into this a little bit more. Chicago, Rockford, Bloomington, St. Louis, 2% risk of a tornado in this green area. This goes all the way down in Jefferson City, Springfield, Lebanon, Joplin, down to Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Tulsa. And then we zoom into this area here, a little bit higher risk of a tornado, 5% risk in Oklahoma City, down to Wichita Falls. Now, if you remember, yesterday I only had a 5% risk also, and we had a few tornadoes. We had one cell that just kept producing a tornado. So is this going to be another day like that? We certainly need to watch out. But Wichita Falls up to Oklahoma City, 5% risk of a tornado. Norman, Lawton, Altus, Vernon, all you guys have that 5% risk. And now let's make this a little bit larger once again. What about the risk for damaging winds? If basically in this entire slight risk area. So if you live in that yellow area, that is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles of any given location. Chicago, pretty much everybody that I named in that slight risk area. So, and then the hail threat. We need to watch the southwest mode of this, but if you live in the yellow area, 15% risk of hail exceeding that 1 inch in diameter or larger range. So we definitely need to be aware of large hail today, but the area where we really need to be concerned or aware of a very large hail is this black outline region, which includes Tulsa, Oklahoma City, down to Lawton, Elk City, down to Wichita Falls, all the way down to Abilene to just north of San Angelo. You have a 10% risk of significant sized hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger hail. So definitely another day where we could have very large hail. And I could see this upgrading another category because of hail, maybe tornadoes, but right now just a slight risk. So I do want to mention the rainfall threat with this. We could have storms kind of training over the same area. So if you do live in this yellow area, that is a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in a given location. Lebanon, Jefferson City, all the way to just west of St. Louis, Springfield, Joplin, Tulsa over to Oklahoma City, down to Fort Smith and Fayetteville, McAllister, Ada, not sure how y'all say that. But anyways, yellow, 15% risk of flash flooding. So let's break it down state by state. We'll talk about severe weather, and then we'll talk about rain. We'll zoom into how much rain could fall in those flash flooding risk areas. But Texas is kind of broken up into like two different areas. So we will show you kind of central to West Texas first. So this is starting off, let's back it up. We're a little bit too far ahead. Well, I think I had it like that for a reason, but this is early this afternoon. Time frame is up here. 1, we get into 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. Not a whole lot going on. You know, San Angelo, Abilene is really the area of the screen you want to watch over here. But, you know, we start to get into, say, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., sun is set. We could get some showers and storms kind of east of Big Spring over to Abilene, San Angelo. But for the most part, things don't really get going in this area until we get closer to midnight. So we start to get some storms firing up, as you can tell, kind of between Midland, San Angelo, south of that area, and Fort Stockton kind of region. But we start to get to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and then these storms really get going after midnight. It takes that long. I don't think we'll get anything during the day in this region. At least I don't think. But these storms after midnight, you know, if you live in San Angelo, Abilene, this is why you have that risk of severe weather here for really what happens overnight. And definitely a bigger risk of severe weather down here tomorrow. But, you know, we start to get into tomorrow morning, and of course, the atmosphere begins to clear out and become unstable once again for tomorrow's severe weather threat in this area. But really in this area, I wouldn't expect much until after the sun sets tonight. Now, we covered the rest of Central Texas and even areas of like Dallas, Fort Worth, up to Wichita Falls, Childress. We start to get into 3 time frame up here. Okay, 3 p.m. this afternoon, 4, 5, 6, 7, not a whole lot going on. Then 8, there's some storms kind of north and west of Abilene. And then we got some storms starting to impact the Wichita Falls area. And these could produce a tornado, a quick spin up. There's a 5% risk of a tornado kind of up into this area up here, 2%, 5%, kind of right in the border. But Wichita Falls, you could get a tornado. These storms don't look too serious. But listen, remember, this is just model, guys. I think the ARRR model did a fantastic job yesterday with isolating those 2 different supercells. But, you know, it has good days and it has bad days, just like all models. But we get an 11 p.m. This is midnight. And then we get more storm development between Abilene and Weatherford, just south of Wichita Falls. And we just have to watch all these. You know, it's still storming pretty hefty at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, we got some storms starting to get closer to, say, could be outflow boundary driven, getting closer to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Could have some storms cruising down the Red River. So definitely we'll have another stormy day as we're getting into our Saturday in this area. Hopefully I don't mix up my days. I keep wanting to think today is Saturday because I have the day off work today because of Good Friday. But Oklahoma could be a big day of strong to severe weather for you guys. I don't think we're going to get an outbreak, but you know, this is getting to 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Not a whole lot going on, right? You're thinking, okay, are we going to get anything? 5, 6 p.m. If you hear any barking, that's just Copper. He's still a puppy. Copper's our new dog. If people are wondering, you know, who in the heck is Copper, but he's a Siberian Husky, and he's a talker. People who are dog people know that Siberian Huskies are like to talk a lot. But 7 p.m. we got some storms kind of near between Childress, Lawton, Elk City. These storms could start to mature as they start to move northwest, and you know, it doesn't look too bad based off this radar representation of what could happen, but they certainly could be more strong to severe than what being depicted here. But as we get into 10 p.m., look at these storms. Could be big hail producers, could be tornado producers. It's after the sun's setting. Lawton up to Oklahoma City, Norman, all the way up to Stillwater, Bartlesville, near Tulsa. We start to get this kind of cluster of storms. Could become more linear, kind of more clustered together, but these could produce all hazards, guys. Everything. I don't think it'll be an outbreak, but please be aware of these storms. And 2 things are happening around midnight. Maybe additional storms trying to develop in western areas of Oklahoma, maybe as far back as like Woodard, Oklahoma. And then eastern areas of Oklahoma has a line of storms capable of producing all hazards, rumbling throughout the entire after midnight time frame tonight. And then we could have more storms that actually develop. This is 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. More powerful storms develop and starting to move out of northern Texas into southern Oklahoma. Oklahoma City, Norman, Stillwater up to Tulsa could get more storms. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. This is 6. Time frame's up here, by the way, if you're wondering when in the world is this. I like to show these individual maps per pivotal weather because it does show the time frame up here. But stop it here, waking up tomorrow morning, and we could have a line of powerful storms making its way through portions of Texas, eastern Oklahoma, and Arkansas. I want to show you guys one thing here. How much rain could fall in Oklahoma today? Let's see. This is how much rain could fall. So it's between now and actually 1 a.m. tonight. Let's take it, all the way. This is actually all the way through now and 1 a.m. Sunday. So, Oklahoma City, 1.5 inches, 2 inches of rain. Tulsa, closer to 3 inches. Northeastern, eastern portions of the state could get 2-3 inches of rain. So be aware of the flash flooding threat. Good bit of rain could fall. We need more rain, probably in the western sections of these areas that always seem to remain dry, but we just only can take what we can get, right? So, Arkansas, most of the state will be okay. We get into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not a whole lot going on. 8. Then we get some storms up near Fayetteville, Rogers, maybe Fort Smith. This is 8 p.m. Some strong to severe storms try to rumble through, cross over through the Ozarks. And then they might diminish based off this run. And then we start to get into after midnight. Like this is 2 o'clock in the morning. More storms kind of hit the same areas, but I do think they sink a little bit further south in western Arkansas, Fort Smith, Fayetteville. And these storms could pack a punch. Still a tornado threat in this area overnight, 4 o'clock in the morning. You can see these little squiggly, circly lines right here. This indicates rotating or stronger updrafts, I would add. But by the time we're starting to get into tomorrow morning, that secondary line of storms will weaken, and then another one will start to move in tomorrow morning in western Arkansas. So kind of a 3-round punch potentially for the far northwestern portion of the state. I think regardless, you're going to get some storms over the next 24 hours. But how many times do you get hit up here in Fayetteville and Rogers? Just be aware of all hazards. Take any severe weather alert serious. Kansas, it's more so the southeastern portion of the state. So we're starting 4, 5 time frame up here. 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Not a lot going on. 9 p.m., 10 p.m. We start to get some storms kind of in just the south eastern portion of the state. Nothing too crazy based off this run, but these storms could produce all hazards, and it's the reason why you have that 2% risk of a tornado, risk of damaging winds, and risk of large hail in this area. But it really just looks like it stays sort of east of Wichita, south of Topeka and Kansas City, and just in that area. But they could go a little bit further west and north of these regions. But most of the weather stays kind of in that area. And then we wake up tomorrow morning and most of the energy is to your south in Arkansas and Oklahoma. Now, Missouri, this is where we certainly can have a flooding threat also, but we get to 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. We start to get some showers, maybe some downpours, some storms develop, and then boom, 6 p.m. Could have a lot going on here, and I think models are going to struggle in this area. We got a couple almost supercells developing near Joplin and Springfield, south of Clinton, a little bit of storm action around Rolla, and we got a strong to severe storm developing around St. Louis around dinner time, and then boom, 7, those storms begin to cruise up the interstate from Springfield, roll up to St. Louis. And these storms can produce all hazards, guys. The tornado threat won't be as high up here, but still a risk of hail and damaging winds and flash flooding just because these storms will be kind of taking the same avenue, the same area, and just you'll get round after round and it'll start to add up after a while. But here comes these storms going through St. Louis, and it looks like St. Louis just gets round after round of heavy rain. Could get some storms fire kind of north of Columbia and Kansas City, north of the interstate corridor here. But they might outrun their ingredients. But we start to get into about midnight tonight. Still a lot of rain cruising across the same areas. And then we could get another round of strong to severe storms impacting Joplin. Just kind of cruising over those same areas, guys. You see, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., heavy rain, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., this is 6 a.m., this is 7 a.m., then we're waking up. And man, waking up at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning to this run wants to show a pretty intense line of storms going through southern and southeastern areas of Missouri. Like, really shows a strong complex of storms. I want you guys to watch out for that overnight. So, Yeah, something to watch for here. Now, how much rain could fall in this region? Let's show you that. Going to do some of this on the fly. A lot of rain. This is between now and 1 a.m. Sunday. Right up that same corridor that we just mentioned a couple times. Joplin can get over almost 4 inches of rain. Springfield closer to 3. Rolla, same thing. St. Louis, maybe around 2 inches of rain. So a lot of rain could fall in this area right here of Missouri. So, moving forward here, let's look at Illinois, and we'll cover Indiana in this also. We're starting off around 10 a.m. this morning. We'll get into about lunchtime. Not a whole lot going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 p.m. Looks like we start to get some cells out there, some thunderstorms. Now, where exactly are they going to fire? It's a big question. It's a tricky question to answer, but it does show some storms anywhere from Springfield down to St. Louis, Peoria, up to Rockford. And these storms certainly could produce a lot of hail and some gusty winds. Brief tornado is possible with this. And then we take it to about 7 p.m. Time frames up here. And we got some stronger storms south of Springfield. Could be right on top of Springfield. Remember, model guidance isn't exact conclusions. The end of all answers here. Peoria, some storms hitting Gary, South Bend based off this run. And then we get some strong to severe storms going through Chicago around 8 p.m. Storms near Champaign. Then we get more clusters of storms that go through central and southern Illinois. We got a storm that hits Indianapolis around this time frame, 10 p.m. And we got storms up here in northern areas of Indiana. And just round after round, it's everywhere, right? The only area that looks to not maybe get as much storm action potentially is maybe northern Illinois. But it looks like Chicago maybe gets hit by multiple rounds of storms. And we get to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And I would just watch out tomorrow morning for a complex of storms that could be strong to severe for anybody that lives in southern Illinois and southern Indiana. So, last couple states, I do want to show some love to Wisconsin and Michigan here, but Wisconsin looks pretty fine. Could have some storms near Janesville, Milwaukee later this afternoon, and then we get into this evening, and then the overnight hours doesn't show much of anything. So, but I would watch if you live near Madison, the Janesville to Milwaukee. If anybody's going to get any storms, it's going to be you guys. I know that's not much love that I showed you guys, but there's not a whole lot to show. But we start to get into 10 a.m., 11 a.m., midday. Could have storms basically making their way through the entire central area of lower Michigan. These could be strong to severe. But they will move in and move out pretty quick. And then by the time we get in the middle of the afternoon, could have some lingering storm action up here near the border of the kind of Lake Huron shoreline. But as we're starting to get into this afternoon, more so this evening, more storms can kind of cruise over those same similar areas that get storms maybe later this morning, early afternoon. So, watch out Grand Rapids, Mount Pleasant. I mean, even down to Kalamazoo. These storms could be strong to intense. You see this area of storms right here. But around 7 p.m., that's when I would watch in areas of lower Michigan and even central lower Michigan, even southern areas of lower Michigan too, just because it doesn't show storms near Kalamazoo, Jackson, Detroit, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything. But, storms starting to get closer to Lake Huron, then we could have more areas of storms, maybe in northern areas of lower Michigan, near Traverse City, Alpena. You guys could start to get close to some storm action, and then by the time we're getting into midnight tonight, we continue to just get rounds of storms. Just a stormy next 24 hours down here. This is 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So no wonder why they moved the marginal risk up through this area. I mean, this is starting off 9 a.m. this morning. Here comes round number 1, round number 2, round number 3, and then we just lose count after that after we get into the overnight hours. So that's a state-by-state breakdown. Updraft Felicity swath, which indicates stronger rotating updrafts. It pinpoints this area of Oklahoma right here into northern Texas. So could have our highest tornado threat throughout this region. And then, as you can tell, we start to get, let's switch to this right here. That's not a good point right here. And as you can tell, I know it really picks up on a stronger cell down here. I know this is kind of hard to see, but this area kind of down into here, it really likes for some sort of cell or complex of storms to get going after midnight tonight in southern Oklahoma, getting into southern Illinois tomorrow morning in Indiana. Watch out, even western Kentucky. So watch out for flash flooding, severe weather today, guys. But as we get into tomorrow, there's a severe weather threat also. Some of the same areas, but a little bit further south. So I had the hiccup. Sorry, guys. The Dallas-Fort Worth area could be more so under the gun for tomorrow. More of southeast Oklahoma, northwestern half of Arkansas, southern Missouri, slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Marginal risk does extend all the way to like San Antonio, almost back to Midland. And I don't want to ignore this marginal risk that extends all the way through the southern areas of Indiana, Illinois, through the heart of Ohio, all the way into Pittsburgh. There will be a risk of severe weather in this area too, but level 2 out of 5 down here for tomorrow for our Saturday. Tornado risk, 5% risk is basically shifts south compared to today, but San Angelo, Abilene, Fort Worth, you guys will be under the gun for that 5% risk of a tornado. The 2% risk in the green goes all the way up into northwestern areas of Arkansas. And then the risk of winds, basically the entire yellow area has a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the hail threat, once again, the yellow area, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But in this black outline region where you have also the highest tornado threat, you have a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. And then the flash flooding threat really gets higher tomorrow. So from St. Louis down to Wichita Falls, Tulsa included, Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Springfield, Lebanon. Tomorrow, your Friday, you have in the red area a 40% risk of flash flooding occurring within 25 miles in a given location. That yellow area, it's a 15% risk. And then we have a risk of severe weather for Sunday. This is not uptrended. All these days about stayed the same. But this yellow area from St. Louis through Little Rock, all the way down to Shreveport, including the Arklatex area. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, a slight risk. This could go up another category. We'll discuss this more over the weekend. Marginal risk does surround this. And right now, we just know in that yellow area that there's a 15% risk of severe weather. Okay, could be anything. Damaging winds, tornadoes, hail. All right, talking about today's weather, we do have... Remember I told you we're going to get some storms on lower Michigan later this morning. That is our storms right now. They're strong to severe, rumbling through southern areas of Wisconsin, packing a punch this morning. We got some heavy rain moving out of lower Michigan right now. We got some snow flying around across the Rockies and the Front Range. Elsewhere, pretty calm. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Red flag warnings in this hot pink, more of this normal-looking pink color. That's winter storm warnings. The purple is winter weather advisories. So we got a lot going on across the Rockies. Flood watches are up in the dark green across Missouri, portions of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and then Illinois. And and then the Storm Prediction Center outlook, we've already showed you this, but here's a broad look at it if you want to look at it here, and then a broad look at the excessive rainfall outlook. Today's weather across the southeast, beautiful, starting to warm up pretty dramatically. It's a cool start out there right now, especially for areas in the eastern southeast, but it will warm up about 40 degrees today in certain areas. But nothing to really speak on. Ridge dominating the pattern, so all the flow is moving to our west and north. So, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to discuss for today's weather. So we're good with that. Northeast, quiet start. We're going to have a round, kind of what's going on in Wisconsin right now. We'll actually move through Michigan, through southern Ontario very fast, bring some heavy rain for southern Ontario, and eventually this rain will make it all the way to Buffalo, Erie this afternoon. So it's gonna move a lot over the next just 12 hours. And then eventually this will bring some showers to New England. Not a big deal, but we could have multiple rounds of storms that could eventually also move into like the Adirondacks. So later this evening we could have another round of heavy rain for the Adirondacks and the Vermont, New Hampshire. And then waking up tomorrow morning, just a wetter start across the Northeast. But no severe weather expected really today across this area. South Central U.S., we've already spoke on the severe weather threat in these areas. It'll be a complex setup. But as you can tell, you can see, let's back it up here. You see the snow flying around across Colorado, Denver, Boulder, Front Range will get heavy snow today. The snow will eventually get all the way down into northern New Mexico and set up a snowy kind of southern Colorado, northern New Mexico day for your Saturday. And we'll be getting strong to severe storms in Oklahoma and Texas for tomorrow afternoon. So up here in north central U.S., that first round will move in and move out across Wisconsin. And Michigan's already moved into Wisconsin. We've already spoken on the storms in this region. We had a special segment for it in the beginning of the video if you didn't see that. But once we get into tomorrow morning, I think most of the action will begin to shift a little bit further south. We actually could have some snow showers in areas of the UP and northern Wisconsin for tomorrow. And then the western U.S., we've spoken on the snow already. This will be flying around across the Rockies. Elsewhere, though, pretty calm. But did just want to show some love to the snow portion of this. This is Wyoming. This is how much more snow you could expect between now and 12 a.m. Sunday. And this is Colorado. I mean, they're actually going for almost 5 inches of snow in the Denver metro now. Castle Rock closer to 6, Colorado Springs 4, Pueblo about an inch or 2. But obviously the Rockies getting hit very hard with a lot of snow in Colorado. And then this is New Mexico. Most of the snow will be confined to the northern sections of the state. Temperatures, it's warming up. Look how warm it's going to get in lower Michigan today. Well into the 80s. Mid 80s across Illinois. We're finally warming up in the Northeast. It'll be nice 60s, heck, even some 70s, and just a nice warm day across the country today. It'll be a beautiful weekend for a lot of folks. We've had some cold Easter weekends before, but then we got the plume of cold air across the Rockies. But around this area of cold air, it's warming up. I mean, all the way up to Seattle, nice conditions. So, folks, that's all I got. Just it's Good Friday. Just remember what Jesus Christ did for us to save us from our sins. I know there's some people watching. Not everybody's religious, but, I'm always going to keep glorifying God on my channel. It's what I feel called to do. But definitely, I always have, to me, guys, Jesus and what he did has always been the ultimate never give up story to me. And just... he knew what was coming. He knew what was going to happen. He knew the pain that he was going to feel, and he was getting tempted by Satan to give in, and he didn't. He did not. He just kept going, knew what he had to do, and I feel like that each and every one of us and everything that we do in life should approach it like that. There's times for rest, of course, but a lot of people give up with the smallest of pressures, like just the smallest pushback. They just give up. They fold. I like to use this word. They fold like an omelet. Think of what Jesus did for us to save us from our sins and how we sin every single day still. But just, I just think his story, I think what he did is the ultimate never give up story. He knew what was coming, and he still went through it for us. And we should draw just an unlimited amount of fire in life out of that, in my opinion. And I do every single day. If I can't, it's as simple to me as this, waking up early. If I can't just wake up early, if I'm just, and that's getting a little everywhere, but, sometimes I just want to sleep in and I don't want to get up and get in the Word. I don't want to get up and do my routine. I want to just sleep in and just kind of be lazy. I think of stuff like that. I know that's a little bit weird, not weird, but in a way it's kind of a weird example. But, if I can't even get up in the mornings early and be disciplined, as is what I'm trying to say, and be a disciplined human and stick to my routine, and then I mean, that's pretty pathetic, honestly. So I know that we all suffer, we all go through things, but just remember, all the suffering that you're going through. If you trust in God, it's kind of like the scripture we read the other day, where it says that it's better to suffer and do good and follow God's will than do evil. And kind of live an easier life, right? So never quit fighting a good fight, guys, and never give up. So God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. And I'll talk to you in the morning. Stay safe.